Now black does another tricky move in this game. He moves his bishop up to d4 to defend his queen, or to block that pin that I've got there on his king. Now this is unfortunately an extremely bad square for him to be on, because I completely dominate that d4 square 3 times. My bishop, rook, queen. And that being the case, my next move was fairly obvious. I capture his bishop. Now he's lost his bishop for nothing. All he really did there was buy himself a little time to help deal with this pin and alleviate it somehow, so that he's not forced to trade his queen with my rook, which he desperately does not want to do. If anything, he wanted to trade his queen with my queen, but that's not going to happen now. He does another nice little move, which I thought was tricky. He now finally moves his bishop up to protect, to semi-protect his king, but to relieve that pin. And also, now he's threatening my queen. So, potentially he could move his queen away on the next move, or he could even capture my queen at some point, provided that something changes here in my position. Now, I'm not going to let anything change here. My next move is fairly obvious. I capture his queen. Now his queen is gone. That's sealed. In addition, I've now created another pin with his bishop. So he cannot capture my queen with his bishop. It's pinned to his king, or he'd be in check, illegal move. So I essentially forced him to make that exchange. He obviously recaptures with his pawns, pretty much all he can do. And so now I have basically drawn even in material, because he was up 4 points. I gained my 4 points back in that rook to queen exchange, and now I still have tempo. It's my move. Granted, I am being threatened here, but I've still got a lot of options, and black is now a lot weaker than he was before. My next move then, which is interesting, is bishop to b6 check. Now this looks like a bad move. You might think, well, why didn't he move his queen out of the way? Why also would he move his bishop to a square where it can immediately be captured by black's a pawn? Well, the reason is this. If he does decide to capture the bishop and relieve the check, then he's exposing his rook along the a file, and I'll immediately capture his rook, pinning his knight to his king, and barring something happens there, my queen is still in a good position there to eventually maybe even create a skewer along the 8th rank here between his king and his other rook. So he does not want that to happen. In addition, I've basically nullified the threat here to my queen, because he's now in check. He can't relieve it, or he's not going to choose to relieve that by capturing. So he's got to move his king, and he can't make an offensive move. So that's pretty much all he can do. He moves his king out of the way. Now I am just repositioning, and you'll see that I've done this a few times with my queen. I've put him in such a bad position that I can afford to realign my queen and set up another move here, which I've done now. I got a couple things going here. I'm now threatening his rook over here in the corner, and I'm basically setting up a fork situation depending on what he's going to do here. Now, black makes a good move. He captures that pesky bishop with his knight, and in addition to that, he is now protecting his rook. So that option of taking his rook is no longer on the table for me. And beyond that, he's also threatening my knight here. So he's forcing me really to make this exchange again. So I recapture his knight with mine. Now black takes back my knight. This was a great trade-off series here, because he captured a bishop and a knight for just one of his knights. So he's up in material again. He gained some material there. Unfortunately, he had to capture it with his king, who is kind of out in the open now, and this is what I knew he would probably end up doing, and set me up for my next move. A simple little move. Move my queen up to another center square. Now he's in check, and now he's forked on his other rook, which is what I had originally intended on doing. So his response then is to block the check, forcing me pretty much to take the rook, which I would have done anyways. Now I've created this pin, which is just really bad now, because he can't move his knight or he'll lose his rook. He can't move his rook, he'll lose his knight, so his moves are limited. He decides to go ahead and take that bishop that was hanging there for the last few moves. Pretty good move for him. He didn't really have a lot of choices at this point. So he's now gotten rid of the bishop. He's gained a little material back. It's not looking good for black, certainly, but you know, that's the best he could do. My next move then, finally, is to activate my rook. The only way to do this is to get my king out of the way. So, simple little move, develop my h-pawn, give my king some breathing room there. Black's response is to try to relieve this pin somehow, so he moves his rook to a square which is protected by his bishop. Now he can bring his knight out, kind of back my queen out of there, and try to get something going for himself, but still not looking good for him.